Welcome to the Driving Change podcast on the Evergreen Podcast Network, where we live at the intersection of neuroscience and storytelling. If you love great stories and you love understanding the mindset it takes to be a world-class change agent, then join us as our fascinating guests from all walks of life unpack their unique journeys of perseverance and passion, of expertise and experience, and be inspired to use your own story to drive change. Welcome back to the Driving Change podcast. And those of you who've been listening for a long time know that we scour the globe for game changers, for people who have dedicated their whole life to doing something purpose-driven, even if they didn't start off knowing what that purpose was. In fact, those are my favorite stories. Today's guest, boy, I think you're really going to love him. Now, first of all, he's from the land down under, so you're going to love his accent. We don't get that every day around here. Secondly, I think what you're going to connect with on his story is going to be so meaningful to so many of us as listeners, from the journey he started onto to where he is today. Travis Bell, he's known as Trav Bell. He's really known as the bucket list guy. You might have heard of him. You probably have, in fact. He's not just a motivational speaker and an author. You're going to listen. I'm not going to give away too much of his story, but his story has got him to the point in his life where his ultimate purpose is helping individuals live their bucket list life before it's too late. And again, I'm not going to tell his story because I think his story will connect with all of us in a unique way. But before adopting this current bucket list guy moniker, he also founded and franchised a chain of personal training studios across Australia. He started with a single client, and he got this guy's cholesterol so low, no, I'm just kidding, that he actually turned this into over 2 million personal training sessions, motivating tens of thousands of clients, franchised it out. I believe he has now over, I think, 100 or so coaches now that are certified in that, in his bucket list stuff that's going on past the personal training stuff now. So he has just been he's a serial entrepreneur, a serial game changer. He's written books. We're going to get to that. He's written blueprints. He's a TEDx speaker. We could go on and on and on, but I'll tell you this, Trav's going to probably change your perspective on how we think about everything from your purpose to your mental health, to your physical health, to why you do what you do. So Trav, that's a long-winded way around the block to intro you, but man, really an honor to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Jeff, stoked to be on. And look, if you're not doing anything for the rest of 2024 and 2025 and maybe beyond, mate, I would like to take you on the road as my introducer, my MC, my personal MC. That was, I think, one of the best introductions I've ever had. So I've now great. You've raised the bar, and now I've got to come up. I'm like, that sounds impressive. Who wrote that?
Who is that guy?
But who is that guy? Mate, I'm stoked to be on and really happy to, for us, I guess, as watchers and listeners of this, I encourage everyone, right from the outset to take the opportunity to take time out of your life to work on your life. Grab a paper and pen. There's going to be some nuggets here, not just from me, but from both of us about how to, live a regret-free life. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's awesome. This is what this episode is going to be about. And I have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to be able to go back and listen to this over and over again with a pen and paper, taking lots of notes. So, well, for our listeners that don't really know you, which is probably many of them, at least they know of you, but maybe don't know you, take us back all the way. Give us your origin story. Give us that, little Trav growing up. Who are those influences in life? And then kind of were your highs and lows? And then we'll kind of work our way into what you've become today.
Well, I'm a Taurian. I love, long walks on the beach. And, no. And I make fun of myself a lot. So we call that self-deprecation, I think, or taking the piss, I think, in Australia. No, mate, I'm here in Ocean Grove. Ocean Grove is on the coast in Victoria, Australia, about an hour and a half out of Melbourne. So I grew up here on the beach. I'm a surfer, and I was a competitive swimmer, surf lifesaver, lifeguard surfer. And my love of the ocean led me to, I guess always be a jock, as they say in America. That led me to do a physical education degree. And third year uni, I had no idea what the hell I was going to do. Then this guy turned up and he was doing this thing in the early 90s called personal fitness training. And this was before there was an industry, you know, it was sort of been in America, but sort of certainly not launched in Australia yet. This is, again, early to mid 90s. And I was fascinated. He was training some celebrities and people in rich suburbs around Melbourne. I'm like, how much do you get paid per hour? This is interesting. But as a way of really, like, I saw it not just from a financial gain, but also he was really helping people get results, which is, you know, what you and I are all about. So he said this is pre-internet, pre-crack book, Instacrack. And he said, subscribe to this magazine, go to this, go to this conference, get this book. I just did everything he said. And I'm still in contact with him today, Tony Hewitt. And I did everything he said. I started working in a gym. I got my first client in that gym. She paid me a whole $25 an hour to be her personal trainer. Excuse me. And I started training her. Started with one client, trained her 3 times a week. And I think I was 20 or 21 at the time. And, you know, that story with her was a whole up and down. You know, she was actually a 55-year-old lady at the time. Her husband wasn't that nice. She'd sometimes come into personal training sessions with bruises. And I found out really quick that I wasn't just a personal trainer, I was also a life coach. You know, some of the best personal training sessions, I'd have, this kind of circuit all laid out, ready to go. I was so enthusiastic and I'd see that she'd had a rough night. And I'd be like, you know what? I think our training session today is going to be coffee. And she'd be like, oh, and still to this day, she's like, they were the best. So we got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you're going to use it in those proportions. Listen twice as much as you speak. So that's when, at the age of 21, I kind of fell into coaching / life coaching as well as personal training. And, she referred everyone in the English speaking language to my business. She left her husband. Not that I had, wasn't personal training. But one of the proudest, she left me, started doing, I think one of her goals was to do her first triathlon. She met a triathlete and I gave a speech at her wedding on her behalf. It was amazing. There's a little bit more to that story, but at the end of the day, that was my first client. I got my record was 63 1-hour mobile personal training sessions in a week there at one stage. I did that for quite some time. I was running around Melbourne, my little car and my boxing equipment and running, And then I wanted to centralise everything. Got one of the first personal training studios in Australia. Had about 13 personal trainers working for me in that first studio. One of my trainers said, I'd like to do one of these too. A year later, we franchised because someone said, you can't franchise personal training because it's personal. I went, that's all I need. So off we went. We built a chain of personal training studios, tens of thousands of clients across Australia, over 300 personal trainers under that umbrella, over 2 million personal training sessions done, motivated all these people. It was really cool. Let some, cancerous people into the network. They wanted to put beetroot in the Big Mac, so to speak. And as a franchise, I said, no, not allowed to do that. They said, yes, we're going to do it anyway. I said, no. Anyway, lawyers got rich out of that one. And it was that and a few other things. And at the end of the day, I fell into depression, and that was a factor, but some other things were going on as well. I fell into depression. But instead of going on heavy antidepressants, which is what the doctors wanted to put me on, and therefore I'd be sleepwalking through my life, I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to figure out my own psychology here, get to the cause, not just put, a Band-Aid effect over the top of it. So I found myself, over the course of a year and a half, 2 years, that just going to every course imaginable, walking on fire with Tony Robbins, bloody ayahuasca, everything. And to figure my stuff out, and I did. I was in one of these seminars, and a friend of mine said, well, Trav, you're in these seminars all the time, events, etc. Why don't you teach this stuff? And it was a light bulb moment. A month later, I put on a talk. I nearly had to pay the 40 people to come to that talk. I was shitting myself. And I package in all my, because I've never worked for anyone in my life, really. I just, package in all my entrepreneurial stuff, all the, NLP and positive psychology stuff that I've been learning, put it into a talk. About halfway through the talk, this is about 15 years ago, halfway through the talk, I started sharing the fact that I had a list to do before I die since I was 18, actually written down. And I said to the room, who else has got one of these lists to do before you die? Written down. No one. Donuts. I was the only freak in the room. So I said, why the hell do you get up in the morning? I was literally surprised that no one else really had this kind of, North Star, this compass like I did. And it just helped me wherever I went around in uni and shared accommodation and stuff. I always had my little blue folder with my list to do before I die. Anyway, I started sharing some of the things, the reasons for getting up in bed in the morning, and reason why I made decisions quick in business, and da-da-da-da-da. And it inspired the room. And then someone at the end of it, Jo, she said, oh, how's this list to do before you die stuff? It's like a bucket list. You're like the bucket list guy. I went, light bulb number 2, bing, went home, registered thebucketlistguy.com, and I've been doing that ever since. And I defranchised the personal training, sold off the studios that I owned. I owned 3 studios. And went online 15 years ago before it was COVID cool. And I've been working online ever since.
Wow. Okay, so let's recap now. There's a lot there. So now I'm going to show my stereotyping of like Americans tend to do. So you're a young age, late teens, early 20s. You're on a beach. You're like Baywatch. You're saving lives. You're playing a didgeridoo, throwing a boomerang with your pet kangaroo. That's what all Australians do, right? Growing up. So that
I've got 2 pet kangaroos and very fluent on the didgeridoo. No.
But here's the irony. I love the irony in people's origin stories. Is then you guys called it. It wasn't necessarily like lifeguards. They call it here. You said did you call it lifesaver?
Lifesaver. Like I was a paid lifeguard. And
then you called it a lifesaver.
It's lifesaver is lifeguard and lifesaver are actually two things. So,
okay.
So lifesaver is a voluntary lifesaver, and we have voluntary lifesavers all around Australia.
Well, here's my point is, and I know the irony can't be lost on you.
No.
That you started off on the beach with a lifesaver without any true purpose, and now you're literally saving people's lives in a completely different way.
Holy shit. Did that just happen?
I mean, talk about how our arc, right? If we listen to the inner voice and we follow that path to purpose.
I've never seen that. Bang. There you go. Mic drop. I guess I'm saving lives still. There you go.
But in a completely different way, right? But probably in a more impactful, not that you can also be more impactful in saving someone from drowning, but you're saving them from drowning in a whole different way, I guess is the point today. And you're doing it at scale, which is really impressive.
literally and figuratively. Yeah. Yeah.
And so then you go into the fitness training business, which again just seemed like a nice thing to do. You had a guy come in your life and show you a little bit of a path, and then because you have this entrepreneurial bent, you were able to turn it into something unique and something that maybe hadn't been done before. Talk a little bit about when you hit the pit, because I think this is where people just think that, oh, they see a guy like Trav Bell, he's wildly successful, he's got thousands and thousands of followers, and he's done. You hit a moment there where you said you fell into depression. Give us a little bit of that insight, that season, because I think it'll really resonate with people today. With maybe there's a people listening right now that are in that pit, and what that felt like, and how you came out of it.
Yeah, I can guarantee there is. And, every audience that I speak in front of as a keynote speaker, I can guarantee there's 30% of the audience that are going through some sort of mental health battle at the moment. And I'm no expert on it. I just speak from, my somewhat shallow experience, personal shallow experience. But since becoming the bucket list guy, it's amazing when you share and you're vulnerable, especially from stage, how many people, like some of the hardcore stories that I hear, and I'm lucky to contribute even to the Heal the Heroes program over the United States, where they take vets that have got PTSD, and my stuff has helped them heal, which is, just incredible. So, and the basis, FYI, everyone, pretty much 90%, if not nearly 100% of the stuff that I teach is all based on positive psychology, which is really the antidote, I think, to mental health. And that is identifying a person's strengths, what gives them a sense of meaning, purpose, fulfillment, and gratitude, and basically bleeding more of that into their work and into their life so they have a happier life. And so I think, it's way better than hardcore therapy, way better than masking, giving people drugs. These are tools. And my Trojan horse really is bucket list. It's a fun way of introducing it. But dude, like right now, and let's be real, we are in a mental health perfect storm right now, where depression is going through the roof, anxiety is next level, suicides, youth suicides, the overprescription of antidepressants. You go through a pandemic and lockdowns in there. But then the new kid on the block is the loneliness epidemic. It's a real thing. Google it. This is the adverse effect of social media. We're all connected than ever before, but we're actually more lonely. So this is real. It's huge. It's not going away. So I'm doing my bit, again, with the Trojan horse of bucket list. My way of explaining positive psychology, maybe, hopefully putting it in the hands of people. But, and that's why the simplest take home that people can get from our interaction, Jeff, today, is I actually just want people to write a bucket list. Like, get this stuff out of your head. We're going to have some resources for you in a sec. But get this stuff out of your head and onto paper, because right now what's taking precedent is your daily to-do list rather than your bucket list. And I don't want to wait. I don't want to have people wait until they get a use-by date.
Yeah, and that's what happens a lot, right?
Just like the movie, So, and we need, like if you're a leader of any, and I think everyone should be a leader, like if you're watching, listening to this podcast, Driving Change here. So there's a part of you that wants to change, I'm sure, right? Well, cool. Let's put our own oxygen mask on first before we can help others. Be a bucket lister. Be the example for others to follow. Go be an influencer a good influence in your ecosystem. Be the example for others to follow. So what I mean by that is I want you to be, graduate our interaction today as a bucket lister, right? Someone who's glass half full, not half empty, who is out living their list, who is out there, just being the example for others to follow, because we need more of it. Because misery loves company. Right. And, I've made a personal mission, and I encourage everyone watching and listening to this, but to take on this mission as well. Be that person that, when you catch up with them for a wine, beer, or coffee or whatever, you feel like you've got energy from them. Right. Versus, and you feel fulfilled after. You don't feel like you've wasted your time. Versus the other type of person where you feel like you need a wash or a holiday afterwards. There's enough of them out there. So we need to, tilt the balance of glass half full people out there. Sure, we've got to put our own oxygen mask on first and be that example. You hear me say that a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like that was, tough times for me. And it seems so long ago that I went through that. But I'm reminded every single day of people that are currently in a way worse situation than I was. But I can guarantee that if you are in that kind of situation, then reach out to Jeff, reach out to myself. We've got all of our details available. We're here for everyone, and just if something's sparked, then great. But put pen to paper. That's the first task. I guess I can encourage people to do. Get this stuff out of your head.
So would you say, Trav, on this? I love the concept in general because we study the brain. I'm an applied neuroscience researcher, and so we know the neuroscience behind the idea of emotional contagion. It's real, and so misery loves company. Well, so does joy, so does gratitude. So who do you want to be in company with, right? So that's the one thing I would say on that kind of resonated with what you said. But what I'm curious about is like getting stuff out on paper. I imagine when you train people on this over the years, and even now your coaches coach people on this, they probably, depending on where they are relative to their belief that they can do these things, they probably filter a lot. They probably self-limit what they think their bucket list should look like. Do you see that at all? Or how do you encourage people to just don't put a bunch of rules against your bucket list, just start writing?
Where do I start? Where do I start? Right here. So the, I mean, you know this too. People don't even if you just write goals down, let alone bucket list items, you've got a 46% more likelihood of them actually manifesting. So if you just write stuff down, you're halfway there. A lot of people don't even write down goals, let alone bucket list items. Why? Because they're relying on their, again, your daily to-do list is taking precedent. Here's the thing. And I don't wish this on anyone at all, but let's say you get given a use-by date, a diagnosis. That's not favourable. Isn't it funny how people pivot on their priorities like in a heartbeat because they've now got the virtual gun to their head? Before that, I was so busy. And before that, I didn't have the time. I didn't have the money. And then suddenly, bang. Don't be like I say when, the bucket list movie, Jeff, you've seen that with Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman. The movie's shit. And I've based my whole career on it. Why? Because it's about two blokes, as we say in Australia, it's about two blokes that get given a cancer diagnosis and then they write a bucket list. Too late, fellas. So my mission, if you will, is to wake people up, disrupt to a certain extent. We're only on here for 45 an hour, whatever. And so I've got to say some stuff to get you to wake up, stop just existing, start intentionally living. Look, people are dying at 40 and being buried at 80.
It's good.
So people are just sleepwalking through their lives. We go outside and we see dead people.
Yeah. What do you think about, because I always thought about the term, the bucket list. And to your point is, when I picture a bucket, I grew up on a farm, right? It's an old farm boy. So I just picture a regular old bucket. You can imagine that. And I think, well, buckets aren't that big. Well, why is it a bucket list? Was because you wait so long that you can barely fit a few things in. If we do what you're saying, I mean, we're talking about like it's more like a bathtub list. I'm not telling you to go out and run out and change your business model, because the point is what it is. But what if we started thinking earlier about these things?
Yeah, that's the whole idea. Yeah, that's the whole idea.
Right.
And I want people to start writing stuff down. It seems really, what's easy to do is easy not to do. And people don't write down goals, let alone bucket list items, because fear of disappointment. Getting back to your point, fear of failure, fear of success, same sort of thing, right? I don't want to write down anything because I don't want to disappoint myself. Because I've done it in the past, may have not done it in the past, but I don't want to disappoint myself. So here's the thing, and this is, God, I can't scream this loud enough. When you're writing down goals, let's go to bucket list items. Only worry about the what and the why, not about the how.
Good.
The how overcomplicates everything. All right, so what do you want? What do you want to have? What is that bucket list item? And just free think. Who cares? No judgment. You don't have to show it to anyone. You can show it to us, Jeff and I, but it doesn't matter. Just free think. Just go mad. Big vision stuff. Global. You're going to die soon. Who cares? Just chuck it down on paper. But I bet the thing that you write down will have a personal why attached to it. Your personal why attached to it. So what I mean by that is you'll have a story, your own origin story as to why you want that thing, why that's where, Jeff, your, mine, theirs, our list will be completely different, but I can guarantee there might even be the same items on there. Who knows? But our personal why for wanting that will be completely different. Now, don't worry about the how. The how overcomplicates it. So the how is the thing that creates that inertia. That friction, if you will. But when you just think about this, guys. So when it comes to Google or ChatGPT these days, who knows? And you want to find something, you want to search for something. Cool. What do? You punch it into the search bar, and then the resources show up. So old school analog, if you just put pen to paper and write down a goal, you've just basically punched into your unconscious and your conscious into Google being your brain. So guess what? The universe will conspire to show you the how. You'll start having conversations with people who have been to Mount Everest Base Camp. You'll start noticing stuff on social media that you didn't notice before. And the way the algorithm works these days, you just got to think about Mount Everest and ads will show up of expedition trips. Yeah, that's how freaky this stuff is, isn't it? But you'll notice things differently, and you'll go past shops and you'll be like, right. And it's just funny how that works. Before you know it, all the pieces line up. The how will work itself out. We don't trust in that enough. So what if you just free think and go crazy and you write this stuff down and just trust that the universe will show you the way?
And there's a couple interesting things to what you just said that I find fascinating. One is from a neuroscience standpoint. There's an area of the brain near the brainstem bundle of neurons called the reticular activating system. It essentially acts like Google AdWords. When you start thinking something and you start positioning yourself to believe something, your reticular activating system activates and starts looking for all the things that align up to that thing, right? And I think this is a big part of it's not just psychology, there's an actual neuroscience behind it as well. And I bet you dollars to donuts, if you think about your journey, because I talk to a lot of people about, just trying to find my purpose. If I knew my real purpose, then I would just go for it, both get guns blazing. And I think that purpose is not a destination, right? It's part of the journey. And if you think about what you're doing today and the difference and impacts you're making, had you not started putting stuff out there and just going without even knowing the next step, you would never have come up with where you are today. Your story proved that. Like someone said, well, you should put this together. You should teach this. You're like, I don't know about that. Well, maybe I should teach this. And now you're teaching it. And next thing you know, people are like, hey, who's written their stuff down? No one's written their stuff down. Like to your point, the universe, your faith, your whatever your spirituality is, you started having, it's like the old Indiana Jones movie. Remember when he had to step out and there wasn't any step in the chasm and the rock comes under his feet? Like that's what's happening, right?
Ah, there you go. Oh, God, these analogies, Jeff, these analogies are just, I'm writing these down. Yep. But you're right. Like, and here's the thing, like I say, a bucket list is a tangible life plan where your career plan or your business plan should fit into your life plan and not be the other way around.
Could you repeat that? Because I think that's so important. I want to make sure we underscore that.
And plus, it'll be probably a good social media clip. A bucket list is a tangible life plan where your career plan or your business plan should fit into your life plan and not be the other way around. So it really brings home this work to live principle, right? And so when I speak to, business owners out there and anyone climbing the corporate ladder, like, let's just compartmentalize what we do on a day-to-day basis, whether it be a job or a business, career. Our jobs, career, business is designed to do two things and two things only, and that is to produce time flow and cash flow when optimized, right? Cool. Double bonus though, if the thing that you do, the product or service that you put out there in the world helps people, I'm sure it does, and it ticks your values, like it lines with your values, then I think that's the holy grail, right? It's giving you the time flow and the cash flow for you, and it's ticking you, and it's giving you a sense of purpose and meaning. Double bonus. And here's the thing: the sad reality in this day and age, and this might be a line in the sand for some people while you're watching and listening to this, is like maybe some coming up to the end of the year, it's maybe reevaluation time about what we're doing here.
That's right.
And it's a really good time to recalibrate. And these are great tools because in America, 89%, check this out, 89% of people who go to work every day in America are what they call disengaged. So that means nearly 9 out of 10 people go to work, get the paycheck, come home, really couldn't care less. This is the scariest statistic and metric, KPI, that every company owner, board of directors, CEO, managing director hates. They hate looking at this. In Australia, it's about 70%. And then we've got a remote work team, and this whole culture now of people working from home, et cetera, trying to maintain any sense of culture. I can't imagine the effect that it's had on that statistic even more. So finding that sense of meaning, purpose, fulfillment in what we do on a day-to-day basis is key, right? But let's not lose sight that whatever you're doing, doesn't matter, just as long as, you're fired up about it. As long as you're amped to go to work and you're fired up to get out of bed in the morning. But let's not forget why we're doing it in the first place, our tangible why, our bucket list life plan. So go create, I go through this My Bucket List Blueprint. It's a 12-letter acronym to help you go north, south, east, west in your own brain, help you to extract and articulate a personally meaningful and holistic bucket list. It's a 12-step system. It's like a little bit like AA. You might need a drink afterwards, but at the end of the day, it allows you to really map out what this tangible life plan looks like. And it's very individual. It doesn't matter what you put down. And there's going to be some small achievable things on there and some big ones. Travel is what a lot of people think of a bucket list. And travel's like the T on the end of this 12-letter acronym. Travel is unfortunately the most expensive and time-consuming thing on a person's bucket list, but everyone thinks that's the thing. So what you'll find is there's some smaller achievable little things that you can do right now. I'm into delayed gratification. We're sold retirement. We're sold exiting the business, selling the business and retirement, but how many examples have we got around us where people have sacrificed their happiness to enjoy later, and the later's never come? Oh my God, that just breaks my heart, right? And people have worked their guts out and sold their business and then had 5 good years to enjoy it, and then just not and then fallen off the perch. Nothing makes me sadder. So I'm into delayed gratification, don't get me wrong. And that's where a lot of people do a lot of travel. But I'm into instant gratification. I'm into us crossing, ticking stuff off our bucket list like right now, because like I said, we've got a mental health perfect storm. We've got to do something about it. So let's get happy now. What's wrong with that? And if you start crossing off or ticking off a lot of the things on your bucket list, the most immediate, doable, low-hanging fruit right now, that will give you the momentum and motivation to smash through the bigger ones. It really will. It's about choosing happiness. So, by the way, this is not just about the ticks off your bucket list. It's really about how you reverse engineer every aspect of your life in order to make this stuff come to fruition. It's about the growth of you on this journey towards these self-imposed destinations. But more importantly, here's the key takeaway. More importantly, it's about the person that exists on the other side, and that is the person that you do not know yet. That's your potential. How dare you go through this fucking life and not get curiously excited about the bigger version of you that exists on the other side? How dare you do that? You would not give that advice to your kids. So how dare you do it? Get curiously excited about the bigger version of you, push the envelope, take those challenges, do more adventures. Life's way too short not to.
Wow, that's so good. All right, so let's give me a couple of give a couple examples where because people even further motivated than they already are. I mean, I'm ready to go now. Let's go. I'm already rewriting stuff in my mind about my bucket list.
Sorry about the swearing, man. I got a little passionate.
That's okay. Sometimes, like Tony Robbins says, sometimes you need that word. That's the only word that fits, right?
He overuses it though.
he probably overuses it for sure. Give a couple examples where you saw someone who maybe the light bulb hadn't gone on yet. They encountered you or one of your coaches. They started this process, and then now here on the other side, boy, they just have turned into a different human being because of it.
Look, it's crazy. I've been the bucket list guy for 15 years now, and like, and I hate to say, but the breakthroughs around my stuff are daily. Not hate to say, but it's so commonplace. Whether it's
right.
They've watched my TED Talk, which is called Life's Too Short by me, on YouTube, or the book, or a talk, or whatever. With personal development, with what I'm doing here, you're throwing stuff, shit at the wall, and you don't know what's going to stick. Whether it be a story or or whatever it is, you don't know what's going to resonate. Because people come in, they come into your stuff for the first time, and everyone's got a different filter on what they need at that point in time. So they'll pick up whatever they need at that point in time. Mate, I get tagged in stuff, sent GoPro footage, videos, photos, like every other day, I'd say, of where people have crossed something off their bucket list and thanked me. Now, I don't do it. I'm not saying that for like, I'm, a superhero or anything like that, or I'm some sort of savior. It's just like I've done a lot of it, and around the world, spoken on 6 of the 7 continents around the world. I'm still waiting for that gig in Antarctica to cross off. So if you know of anyone, I'll be able to cross that off my bucket list. That's a real bucket list item, by the way. But these little, big and small wins from people, there's so many stories, but it's where, like I can tell I've got so many stories. In fact, my second book that's going to come out is all of these stories. 300.
When's that coming out?
That's a great question. I'll circle back to you, Jeff.
Okay.
Next question. So there was one incident, one younger girl who saw me. It was a recruitment conference, and at the end of it, I was signing some books, and I could see sort of her on the end, and she was very shy, young, probably about 25 years old. And I was signing the books, and I could see, like some people are really enthusiastic to meet you and that sort of thing, but she was really shy. Anyway, I nearly got up to her, and she left. She didn't meet me. And then 24 hours later, she sent me an email, and she said, I was in line and I was too shy to meet you. And not because I'm uber famous or any crap like that, but she just chickened out. And she sent me a DM on Instagram, I think. And she said, I was going to tell you my story, but I wasn't in the right place and time, because I wasn't going to go to that today, because they were my employer. They kind of made me to go. And I just want to thank you because it was exactly what I needed today. I said, right, how come? And then she went, boom, gave me her life story on the DM. Drugs, alcohol, abusive relationship, has tried committing suicide a handful of times. Really, toxic, everything. I went, holy shit. So with that, I've had a bunch of those over the years. And, I've got to be careful because I talk about pretty hardcore stuff like cancer, and people in the audience have been affected by mental health. I could trigger people left, right and centre. Right? I'm very aware of this. So I could have triggered her, but luckily she leaned into the positive effect of it. And what that meant was I said, thanks so much. I wish more people would DM me. This means so much to me. I can't tell you. I wish more people. So congratulations. Thank you. And I really mean that. I said, all right, out of today, what were the top 3 things you got? And she listed them. I said, all right, I'm going to give you 24 hours and you're going to send me your full-on bucket list. You've got she had one of my books. You've got my book. You got the TED Talk. You've heard me think. All right, I want because you got to get them into positive action. Forward momentum. She came back with a full bucket list. I said, fantastic. All right, rate them out of 1 to 10. 1 being I'm not really motivated. I couldn't really care. Up to 1 to 5, really can't be. But up to 10, like 10 is like I'll move mountains to make that happen. Pay attention to the 8, 9s and 10s, guys, because they're the things that you will move mountains for, right? And it's not a matter of resources, it's a matter of resourcefulness. So I said, all right, cool. With all that being said, what is the number one, what is the one item on that list that you can do like immediately? And she's like, well, learn guitar. Huh. And I said, all right, well, what can you do about it? What are you going to do? She's going, oh, well, I'll go buy a guitar. All right. So I said, and she said, I'll learn Spanish as well. No, sorry, Italian. I went, all right, cool. I said, all right, you've got to go, I want you to go buy, get that guitar and show me a selfie of it. Just trying to make her accountable so she doesn't go off the deep end, to be honest. Right. And show me that you've opened up an account with Duolingo. Yep. she sent me 2 pictures. Anyway, I kept going for about 3 weeks, and I'm like, all right, she's good, because I was all alarm bells at the start. Anyway, sort of went, both got busy, I assume. She was on suicide watch. On her bucket list, she had, to come back into the family, go to Italy, never been overseas before, blah, blah, blah. A year later, mate, she sent me a photo of her and her family in Italy, and she was a completely different person. She sent me a photo just out of the blue saying, this was on my bucket list a year ago. I've made it happen, and I'm so happy. I'm off drugs, off alcohol, ended the relationship. My bucket list is for, first and foremost, and this was like one of the top things on my list, and I just bawled.
That's awesome. That's so good. And I think what I want the listener to hear.
Long story, sorry guys, but yeah.
No, it's fantastic, because I think that I want the listener to hear that no matter where you are, it doesn't matter whether you're a 25-year-old girl who's had a life of hell and you've made either through environmental or your own choices been in the pit, or you're a 52-year-old executive who's been stuck in the rat race. It doesn't matter where you are. The time to start your bucket list is now. Like it's right. It doesn't matter.
Choose happiness. That's what it's about, and yeah, a lot of people, in my opinion, live their life reactively, not proactively. Plus your bucket list. Let's check this out. So in the book, I go through this concept of a reverse bucket list as well as a future bucket list. There's actually 3 lists. There's a chapter 26, I think. We've got a reverse bucket list. Now, guys, a reverse bucket list is a big gratitude exercise. It's really, if you haven't got a bucket list written, here's where you start. You start with your reverse bucket list. Your reverse bucket list is everything you've done in your life as if it were on a bucket list all the way along. Claim that stuff, because I know a lot of you crazy mofos who are watching and listening to this have already done some crazy stuff in life. Let's claim it. Let's build out your reverse bucket list. This is, and because, not to paint the picture, but, who's been to a funeral lately? What do they show at your funeral? Well, they show you the clips of your life, the photos, they put it to your favourite song and say, see you later.
Right.
So if that was to play today, would you be stoked, or would you be like, I could have squeezed a bit more in? Now you have the opportunity.
Nobody wants a bunch of pictures of themselves sitting at their desk or on a Zoom at the funeral, because that's all they ever got done, right?
Oh, there it is. So, no, it's the adventures, it's the connections, it's the, everything that goes along with it. So, start building out that reverse bucket list as soon as possible. Make it visual, create a Google Drive of all those pictures and experiences, get your favourite song and get your kids ready. Give them the Google Drive link, and give me a 2-3 minute mashup at the end. But that's a big gratitude exercise. And when the chips are down, when you're having unmotivated days, and this is what it's done for me, is my reverse bucket list super motivates me. It's like, yes, I've had a good life. I've had a good day. Today is just a blip on the radar. Look at the bigger picture here. Oh my God. So when you cross something off your future bucket list, it goes over onto your reverse bucket list. So there's your 2 main lists, and and you just keep adding, keep ticking, keep adding until you die. Simple. The third list, I created the third list when my dad and I went to Mount Everest base camp. We went through Tibet to the Tibetan side, north face of Mount Everest. We went to advanced base camp. I had shocking altitude sickness. Dad had nothing, the bastard. And I was parked around the bowl, and I had, when I was 18, I had my original list to do before I die written down. The second thing I ever put on it, the first thing I ever wrote was to do an Ironman, like full Ironman triathlon. So I've done that. The second thing I ever wrote was to go to Mount Everest Base Camp. So I'm adopted. I went with my dad, who I grew up with, and, we've become, there's a whole other story there, but we've become best mates because of my bucket list as well. We've travelled all around the world. He hadn't even travelled out of Australia before I did this bucket list thing. So big story there. Anyway, we're now best mates. But I had really bad altitude sickness. And I put on my bucket, because I'm the bucket list guy, not just go to base camp, but summit Mount Everest.
Right.
Right. And then here I am parked around the bowl, throwing up, really bad altitude sickness, hungover feeling. And I look north, about 2 kilometres north, don't know what that is in miles or feet or whatever. I looked 2 kilometres north, saw the top of Mount Everest and went, nah, fuck that. Nah. So chapter 26, I think it is in the book, it's the other third list is called the fuck it list. That's all the shit you just do not want to do, bro. And that's okay.
Now, can that start off on, it sounds like that can start off on one of the other two lists and then make its way over to that list.
Yeah, true.
Some things, just immediately go on that list, and other things you have to.
That's it. Yeah. Skydiving. Nah. Marathon. Nah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, tell folks now, I mean, gosh, we could do an entire series in this, on my show about taking each of these chapters probably and do an entire year's worth of episodes. But tell folks where they can learn more about you, where they can get the books, where they can get connected with a coach, where they can get some training, all of it. Give us the toolkit here.
Yeah, well, if you just go to www.thebucketlistguy.com, everything should be there. The coaching, speaking, book, podcasts, which I love. And mate, Jeff, can't wait for you to be a guest on my podcast. I've just written down, my team will reach out to you, mate. And but I
can add that to my bucket list now.
There you go.
Not the third list. I won't put it on the third list.
Good. It's on the list. All right, we'll cross it off together. But everything should be there, and obviously on the socials as well. Probably most active on Instagram. I don't know why, but you should be able to find me on most of the socials. If you can't find me on the socials, someone will get the sack. So there you go.
That's perfect. Well, for those listening, as you're rounding up, I'm sure you got a lot going through your head right now. I'll tell you, we didn't even scratch the surface on Trav and who he is. And I can tell you that just knowing him a little bit and knowing what I know about him now, I mean, he's not doing this for his own glory. This is something that he's found purpose in, and your purpose is lying just on the other side of the next bucket list item that you check off. And every step you make is a new adventure in who you're meant to be, and what you're meant to become. And you won't know who that person is until you take these steps. And so thank you for what you're doing.
Get curiously excited, guys. That's what I want. Get people to really embrace curious excitement about the bigger version of you on the other side.
Man, I love it. Thank you again for who you are, what you're doing, what you're putting out in the universe. And we'll have you back on again soon, especially when that next book comes out.
Yeah. For sure, mate. Pleasure.
And we'll get everybody going and learning more about you and hopefully getting connected to their own bucket list. Thanks again, Trav.
Thanks, bro. Cheers.